Yep.
You. We back.
Another
Right.
round back
Yeah,
again.
no. I mean, less excitement going on right now. Kind of
Yeah,
waiting
things
for
kind of died down
Olympics.
right now after all that football for a good month. So things are a
Yeah.
little quiet.
It's a little quiet, but there's a little things going on. There's a little
We have
things you
more
can
dealing
mention.
with more news than anything else.
Yeah, more news than anything else. All right, cool. So I know for the last couple recordings,
You're
my,
slacking.
yeah, my pause wasn't so good, but I come out different this round. Right? Boom, a little margarita. You know what I mean? Little margarita.
I'm
Yeah,
man's
yeah, yeah,
fancy boy.
yeah. For them towns, for them things. You know what I'm saying? For them things. Right?
Alright. Well, I going back to the old school. A little Johnny and Johnny Green
Where you
and Ginger
find
Ale.
that? Where you find Johnny Green?
I don't know. It was there. The box had dust on it, was, so I said along with it there. But it hit in though. Hit in.
Hitting. All right,
It
cool.
hit in.
Hey, boom, bang.
Salute.
Hmm. Man, me a Mexico, man.
Anyway, so
All right.
we start off a little different than we have in the past. We starting with basketball this rounds, right? So the NBA is on the off season. So with the off season, that's free agency. Free agency comes trades. I
Right.
mean, things kicked off a little early with like the draft. Had some trades at the draft. We had some players resigning and things. So I mean, I thought so far. Now, I mean, we have a couple. We have Brunson resigning, but well, getting
Right.
his extension, but not the max.
Right.
We have Evan Mobley getting the max,
Yeah.
5 year,
Yeah.
224 mil. You
Wish I
know,
had some of that, but cool.
some other players getting maxed out. So what's your thoughts so far on oh Donovan Mitchell as well too? Get a 3 year, 100 so far on the NBA off season so far, and like whether it be trades, news, players resigning, and some rookies,
Well,
because some of these
I'm
off
gonna start to, how to start it off fiery, right? I want your
right.
thoughts on Bronny, man. I want your thoughts on Bronny,
Well,
right?
my
But
thoughts on
before
Bunny.
you, I want your thoughts on Bronny. I want your honest thoughts on Bronny, right? And then I'll see if I need have a rebuttal to what this guy is saying.
I honestly speaking, I haven't really seen him play for the summer league. Just highlights more or less. Stats wasn't that strong. He had one good game recently. I think he scored so many double figures or something like that. And Lakers won as well too. Bronny is a 55th pick, right? Now, I'm not saying picks that late don't develop into good players eventually, but initially they are what they were picked at, and it's not really ever. It's very rarely that they, at least in the summer league showcase, that such a late pick might jump out at you, right, and really produce. So I would say he's on track for what he was picked as, but in terms of JJ Redick saying he has earned everything, yes, he deserves that criticism from that standpoint. But I mean, he initially was not to be in the draft. Well, not to be in the draft, but to be drafted in either the first or the second rounds. He was really ranked as a pickup player, basically. So his workouts and thing moved him up to being in the second round, and now he is at where he's at. So he has to work. I mean, he's playing against mainly college kids, um, high schoolers, guys who maybe have 1 or 2 years in the league but not much experience, guys who played overseas. So it's a good test to see where he's at from ending college and then going through the whole progression of the combine and all these things. So now playing against men on a regular basis. I mean, it's still not the league, but it's a starting point. So I mean, it's still to be seen what he becomes. But for all the flack he's getting, or he has been getting for his first two games, I think one he had like a triple nickel, no, a triple zero,
Yeah.
triple naught. Then another game he had about 3 points or something like that. So I mean, he's young, it's early, but because of all the fanfare and who his father is, it's a lot worse than it would be for any regular 55th pick. But to me personally, he's on track for where he was selected in the draft.
I guess I agree with everything that they say there, to be quite honest. I think people are kind of making it more news than it really is supposed to be because, again, as I said, because who his father is, and maybe some of the comments that his father may have made in the past. But ideally speaking, first thing is it's his first time playing at this level of talent, so it would take some growing pains. Do I expect anything great from him? No. If he turns out to be great, I think that's a bonus. If he doesn't, I don't think it really hurt any franchise that much. So ideally speaking, it's just to see how it goes with his career. I think his the cardiac issue that he had to kind of set him back a bit more. I still think that the younger brother, I think Bryce, seems to be the better prospect overall. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, yeah, at the end of the day, it's a wait and see. I think people are expecting him to be LeBron James from the offset, and even LeBron James wasn't LeBron James from the offset. So I mean, yes, he could have scored and everything like that, but he still had to learn to win. So at
But
the
but
end of
he
the
was
day,
still he was still all right. He kind of lived up to the expectation in a sense. Granted, he didn't reach the pinnacle like in his first year or two, whatever the case. It took him what, 7 years. But he still, all right, for all the hype and fanfare that came with LeBron as a high schooler, right?
Mhm.
I remember that when LeBron came into the league, he came straight out of high school, and
Right?
he had Sports Illustrated covers. He had high school, probably one of the first set of high school games actually being televised on ESPN on a national and
Mhm.
international level. So, uh, and you just always call me one of the biggest LeBron haters.
No,
I will
because you
give
are.
credit where credit. I'll give credit where credit is due. LeBron lived up to the hype as a number one pick, and also all the hype that came prior to him even being selected in the draft. So on that note, I would say LeBron was LeBron. He wasn't the LeBron we know now, but of which is ludicrous to think that he would be that. But he lived up to the expectations of being the quote unquote chosen one that he has tattooed on his back.
I mean that's arguable for the chosen one thing, but I'm still saying that I think it's still being overblown in terms of what's going on with Bronny
It is.
and his current status while trying to. Well, he is in the league. I shouldn't say trying to get into the league. He's in the league, but in terms of his performances, and I think maybe by after the All Star game there, so we could really get to see what he can actually provide at a bit of a higher level. Not expecting him to be great, but you
Mhm.
might start to see his game starting to improve a bit. So give him time. Give him time. As I say, I'm not expecting greatness. If he does become great, cool, right? If he doesn't and just becomes a squad player, for lack of a better expression, a role player, then cool. I don't see that really being affecting anything, to be quite honest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't expect him to be. I don't right now. Right now, I don't see him as an all-star player. I see him as a rotational player. could develop into a rotational player. Um, but as you rightfully said too, the cardiac issue he had last year,
I
yeah,
think it was, yeah, 'cause he missed most of his
it's
of the
his
one year of
his rookie season in college.
yeah.
So um, yeah, that set him back, and it made him have to adjust, I guess, his whole life, as a matter of fact. Um, so let's just see how he progresses, and before they start to really pile on more than is necessary. Yes, you are right. His comments by his father was, but I mean, can you give a father wrong for hyping his son? The thing is,
No.
the problem is that a lot of the other prospects, we don't, they're for the most part, a lot of them, their parents aren't in the line, aren't in the spotlight, especially the kind of spotlight that Blood Brown has. So when it says Brown has a camera in his face every night, and asks, and the questions are coming. You want to play with your son. Your son is he gonna declare for the draft and all these things? I mean, of course he would say like, yeah, well, my son is great, and I expect greatness from him, and he's gonna be he's better than 90% of the players that come to the draft. I mean, maybe he was at before the health issue. Um, I can't say, because a lot of these kids, we see their mixtapes, and it is what it is. It's a highlight reel. So we don't really see, unless it is you travel these AAU circuits and stuff, or are there in person to see them play. But we don't really see what these kids can really do. And a lot of times the college game is so washed now, because the trend is for players to go one and done, that there's no incentive on growth anymore. Right? So, like when I was growing up, and when I used to bounce ball when I was in my teens, and my coach always used to say, "Don't watch the NBA, watch college ball, because that is where you see proper techniques and footwork and all these other things." Right? So, and then again too, you could have actually followed college teams, because teams would have guys that would have stayed for 3 or 4 years, you know, for the most part. You know, the top players would have probably left after 3 years, but at least you saw them consecutive seasons and playing in the NCAA tournament and stuff. And you could have basically grown with the players, or even seen the players' maturity and growth. Now, a player is talked about at 12 years old, goes through the AAU circuit, he reaches to college, plays 1 year, and then is out. And these are 18-year-old kids going to play against grown ass men. So, I mean, it's a different. It's not like European football, where it's like they have these academies, and they get trusted at 16 years old into like either the second tier squad, or the first team, that they also grow, you know, within these senior teams. These things don't happen. It's just, and they fill these kids' heads with so much chippiness now, and all the social media and everything is like, when they reach the league now, is a different story. It's either you really see who can make it or break. And a lot of times, a lot of them break, because they would last 3 or 4 years, because they are high draft pick. But to me, this draft this year was weak, very weak. Even the experts are always saying that it's not really a strong draft, and that's because these kids are not ready. I'm not saying don't push these kids, because before, back in the days, the NCAA was, and schools were basically milking these athletes, right?
Right.
To some degree, it still happens, but because of the NIL, they're able to make money on their image and likeness, you know. So they don't feel like a product anymore, or a tool to make money for the universities, right? But I'm not saying no get your money, but also They need to be honest with these kids and let them know that, yeah, all the hype around here, yes, your footwork's still not good. You still can't pass the ball properly. A lot of these players cannot pass. A lot of these players cannot shoot properly. And they're watching they're watching the NBA, watching Steph, but they don't realize that Steph does shoot 500 or 1,000 threes in practice. They don't realize that these guys spend a lot of money on, for instance, LeBron spending $1 million a year to preserve and keep his body fit and eat the right stuff, all the cryogenics and all these other things. So there's a lot that goes into being an athlete because it is a job. People just forget that it is a job, and they come into thinking, yeah, I good. I flew through high school. I flew through my 1 year in college, and now I get in the bag and all the girls and everything. Yeah, that's part of it, but you also have to work. You also have to master your craft. If it is you want to be considered for that second contract and third contract. So I kind of went on, but yeah, I mean it's theater sports kind of shitty, but kind of shitty.
Yeah. We kind of in that era where the faster that they make it to the big leagues, the better, and that's not necessarily better for everyone. Some people need to go through that growth, that time to grow and understand how to adapt their body to be able to play these particular sports. But everything has an era, and everything has a time. At some point in time, I guess it will be seen was the value of going to staying longer in college, and it may go back to something like that, or it might actually get worse. It might actually, or better, they might actually start going to other leagues to start developing rather than staying in the local universities to be able to develop. So you'll all see how it goes, man. It's all
Yeah,
cycles. You'll just see what the next cycle looking like when that starts.
facts.
Yeah.
Well, the new trend is taking European players.
Well, don't say that to Americans. So they won't feel a hollow.
Well,
You
the
know what I
top
mean?
two draft picks were European.
Just saying, don't say that to Americans. They'll feel how about it. You know what I mean? So kind of keep that on the hush, on the hush. Yeah, on the
Well, we
hush.
got this sidetrack though. What about what you had to say about like some of the moves, some of the trades, some of the signings? What's your thoughts?
You
Some
know how to
old
go.
places and some new places.
You know how to go to my Sixers. You know, Sixers have a little place in my heart there. You know what I mean? So, um, the Paul George move is a decent one, provided he could stay fit. I think having actual third piece, we all know who I'm talking about, who was supposed to be the third piece that never turned out to be anything but a waste. But he's gone now, so that's great. That's great. You leave him out of this conversation totally.
Call the name now. Call the name now. Call the name
Nah,
now.
not calling. No, I'm not calling his name. No, he don't deserve to be called. Right? Doesn't deserve to be. Right. So I think it's a decent move. I mean,
Mm,
we all know Paul George right now is not Paul George of old. Of course, he's getting older. Um, I think it would help. But I still think that 76ers, um, they will reach as far as Embiid could actually carry them. As much as yes, Paul George will be a good piece. I think Embiid is the real player to unlock how far Philly can go, and him being that injury prone, we'll see it going to the Olympics. Um, in my opinion, should have stayed home and work on his body, but can't give him wrong. If you want to go to Olympics, that's fine. But I think he's really the key still,
mm.
regardless of right. Maxi has turned into a very very good player. Um, they did lose Buddy. That's a big piece there in terms of being able to knock down some trees. So do I expect them to go further than they went this season, or I should say last season? You know, next season is going to start at later on. I think they would, but I still think it depends on Embiid's health mostly, and to an extent how fit Paul George can actually stay. Because if he is out for extended point in time, I guess that puts extra weight on those two, just like it was last season. And we all know putting that extra stress on Embiid will not it's not the best. It's not the best thing to go through. So that's me in terms of Sixers. Like I get a point in, and then I want to touch on the Mavs a bit.
No, go ahead, Mavs. Go ahead, Mavs.
All right, cool.
I know that's your next team too. Well, your player.
I'm an ex player there, Luke, right? But for Mavs is a funny situation. We don't know what kind of Clay, what version of Clay going to get. Right? We don't know if he is going to be fit enough to be able to help defensively. You don't know if he's going to be able to put up as much threes as he has in the past. I wouldn't expect him to be exactly the same, but I also don't. He can't be hidden as much as he has been before. When I say hidden, not visible on the court or contributing largely on the court. With Mavs, yes, he could lean on Luka. Yes, he could lean on Kyrie, but I don't think that they're bringing him there just to be able to say, hey, we have Klay. They actually want to benefit from his game. So again, we'll see how it goes. It's he's a good piece that has been picked up there because he doesn't need the ball in his hands much. So we have two ball dominant persons already. Getting that now to Klay where he could actually be in a corner ready to shoot some trees would be great. But as I said, it all depends on what version of Klay are you getting. And I think that's the biggest war between those two players, Paul George for Sixers and Klay for Mavs. I think that's the biggest worry after the amount of injuries from both and the type of injuries too. It's ready to see what type of player you're really going to get at this point in time.
All right, I'll touch on both of those points you make. To me, Paul George to the Sixers made sense. There was talk. He was carded to go to the Warriors. Apparently, Clippers didn't want to make that move, so yeah, the next best choice was the Sixers. Yes, I agree that they still go as far as Embiid carries them. Problem is Embiid more than Paul George misses games, and because he's the leader, the engine of the team, the real threat or the real matchup nightmare in most cases, especially in the East. Because he's that for the Sixers, it to me that's more of a issue than Paul George missing games because you still have similar players on the team where they resign Kelly Oubre. He's a player length in terms of stature and stuff. Like he like Paul George can defend and also knock down some trees and attack the rim, get you rebounds and stuff. I'm not saying he's Paul George caliber, but what I'm saying is the architect type is similar. So Kelly Oubre can give you some games where he produces at a high level, but Paul George is still a former All-Star and gives you that extra that player that you didn't want to mention didn't give for the team. So I think having PG there to also kind of relieve some of that stress off of Maxi, because you saw last year when it is either Embiid was out of the game or out for games that Maxi he took on the load, but he could only take on so much. He's still a young player coming into his own, and he's getting there, but he's not at that level as yet. I would like to see him make that step this season coming. So Paul George gives you that other all-star where it is like, all right, let me help you. You could have the first two quarters, but when it comes on any crunch, I can show you how to finish off the game, basically. Because I mean, for all the discredit that people has given Paul George over the past few years, especially with playing with the Clippers. Um, Paul George Paul George was an elite player at one point. The shoulder injuries, the leg injuries, it hampered his game a lot. But on any given night, he can still be that guy. He might not be able to do it the way he did it in Indiana, let's say OKC, but he can still on any given night be that guy to take a team over. He did it. He did it for the Clippers the past couple of seasons when he was healthy. He did it in the playoffs as well to a few games. So I'm not gonna count him out. He's always been a favorite player of mine. Um, from since the Indiana series against the Heat when he dunked over LeBron, when he actually went at LeBron. So I wouldn't discredit Paul George, but I agree, he needs to be healthy for that to happen. Talking about the Mavs, that was a very good pickup for them because Klay doesn't need to be Warriors Klay. And by Warriors Klay, what I mean is he doesn't need to be what people knew him to be before the injury, before the Achilles, before the ACL or the MCL, whichever knee injury it was that he got in the finals. He just needs to be the splash brother that he can be, which is more or less he's a spot up shooter. You have, as you said, two ball dominant players in Kyrie and Luka. Um, they are always going to be attacking the basket. They are always going to have players on their hip, and they are always going to garner most of the attention. So Klay just needs to pick his spots and knock down shots. It's not. It's not. I don't think it's the same role that he would have had on the Warriors. Although his role was changing a lot on the Warriors, I'm not sure what if there was a disconnect with that. There's a lot of rumors that's flying about him being unhappy and all these kind of other things. Um, and but I think going into his new situation, if he accepts whatever role that Jason Kidd and the rest of the coaching staff he picks for him, I don't think it should be any heavy role. Yes, he's a champion. So in the locker room, his voice should ring loudly enough. But also on the court, he just needs to be that guy, kind of like a Mike Miller on the Heat, where it says when they won the championship, where it says he just come down and just sit in the corner and just probably just run the baseline a couple of times and just sit on a corner. Yeah, I could see Klay being that and being very good in that role. The drop off for me would be defensively. He's no longer that 3-and-D guy. The lateral movement is not what it used to be, but he's still a smart enough player where it says he could in a proper team defense. He can help your team still. But you're also looking at another liability on defense for Mavs of Luka. So that is two very much. I don't know. I mean, Klay still has some ability. He still has a defensive mind. I just not sure how much his body is able to keep up with it. But I still think he can help the Mavs, especially kind of maybe on the shooting side. Mavs is already a high volume shooting team, especially with Luka and Kyrie. He just adds another volume of shots. But he's a guy that played in a system where with 3 or 4 alphas on the team, so I don't see that being a problem for him. So I think it was a very good pickup. I mean, Klay was a good pickup for any team. Any team that wants to either reach that next level or already in that realm. So Mavs, it should work for them. And Mavs hasn't lost much of their team from the previous season. So and they were in the finals. So it's still left to be seen what they do coming out of this. Denver, adding to that, Denver I think has taken some steps back. They lost KCP, which was a huge blow for them. For they also lost Reggie Jackson to free agency trades or whatever the case is. So there's rumors of Westbrook getting a buyout from once he clears waivers, getting a buyout from Jazz again, and heading to Denver. I'm not sure that move works for Denver. I'm not saying Russ is I'm not saying you're going to get the Lakers Russ. I think the Lakers Russ was just a bad fit to begin with, because he was good for Clippers last season. But I'm not sure it's a right fit. I guess it all depends on your role as well too. So
Yeah,
and he
because
has been, huh?
I'm thinking that if he does make that change, maybe he leads the second unit rather than starting.
Yeah, he has been showing an openness to take a step back role and probably lead a second unit or and probably finish games, some games, not finish some games. You know, he has shown um that selflessness to not be the star player anymore. So maybe I don't know. It's still left to be seen what goes on, because I mean Joker is still Joker, Murray is still Murray, and Gordon is still there. So the core guys are the core three is still there, but they lost a lot with losing Reggie Jackson and KCP, my opinion. So we still be left to see what happens with Denver.
Agreed. What do you think about your boy DeRozan going to Kings?
Mm, it's not a bad move. I'm not gonna say it's a bad move. It's not a bad move. It's a good move actually for Kings. And Kings needed to make a splash to keep Fox happy, because there were rumors about Fox saying that he's not sure about extending again because he wants to see the franchise do something. You know, he wants to see them work towards improving, and because they had a couple the last two seasons were very good for them, especially the season prior to that, prior to last rather. They were back in the playoffs again after many years out.
Many years. Yeah.
Many years out. They weren't in since that Chris Webber, Mike Bibby, Bobby Jackson, the Christie era. So they were back in, and they kind of took a step back last season. So getting DeRozan is a quality player. He's a all-star player. DeRozan gets buckets. He's an experienced player. He is probably one of the best mid-range players in the league, in a league that is heavily perimeter based. By perimeter based, just jacking up threes for no reason. So that I say is a good pickup for them, because Fox attacks the rim. Sabonis plays inside. Can't remember if they lost Herter though. Herter is an outside shooter. And I think, but if they still have Monk, Monk gets buckets. So you're looking at a team that might outscore you on most nights with their current constitution. So, but defensively, they still need to get stops, and I'm not sure where that would come from right now. You know, so they are a young team, and they are a very good team. It's just to see what they do in terms of getting over the hurdles that a young team reaching that new level has to go through.
Okay, all right, cool, no problem. The last one I want to touch on is this almighty team that was supposed to be beating everybody, but for some reason they didn't work out. Phoenix Suns. What do you think about the Phoenix Suns coming for the upcoming season?
Um, all the big three needs to be healthy. That, to me, that was a big problem last season, especially with Bradley Beal starting off the season injured, coming back, then getting re-injured, and then KD went down for a bit. Then Booker had a couple games out as well too. they could have never really gotten the three of them together on the court for prolonged periods of time. Um, I'm not ready to write them off as yet, but you've seen a trend in the league in terms of these big threes are no longer the it thing
Mhm.
because when when Denver won it, it was a duo, Murray and Jokic. The Celtics, the duo of Tatum and Brown. So
Wrong,
they
right?
kind of going back to a duo system, as we said, as you said earlier about the cycles of the end of everything, So it seems to be trending in that way. It's like you build around a duo and you put a good group of players around them. I'm not saying that this big tree wouldn't work. It hasn't. They fired the coach. It was not the coach's fault. The coach does not give players injuries, or maybe he just wasn't the right coach. But I think ownership changed as well too. So ownership, I guess, just wanted their coach to bring in. So I would reserve comments on the Phoenix Suns and their big three for when I've seen them all healthy and ready to play. Right now, KD is with the Olympic team, and he's
Mhm.
out. He hasn't played any of the um, showcase games, warm up games, or whatever they call them. It's a calf injury, I believe. You have to be cautious with that too because calf and Achilles kind of close together, and that was the catalyst for him injuring his Achilles. So um, let's see when season starts and if they're healthy and all playing together, and I can have a better analysis on that team.
Okay. I know the last team I think we could touch on is New York. New York finally have some exciting vibes going on.
Yeah,
They got Mikael Bridges. I don't know what's the purpose. Maybe you could tell me the purpose of Brunson taking a little less money. Um, to really get it, but I guess you'll be able to tell me because I'm not seeing the benefits of it yet. But yeah, what do you think of New York and their moves, seeing that they had such a good season last season?
New York made some good moves. They have a very good defensive team, especially with the whole three and the type players, Ben Bridges, Aniobi, Josh Hart. They have a offensive minded point guard in Brunson, and who was missing for the playoffs, Julius Randle, who's your inside threat. Um, they lost this guy, Isaiah Hartenstein. He was
Mhm.
their energy guy, um, coming off the bench, sometimes starting as well too. But they made some good moves in the right direction as well too. They basically brought the championship winning Villanova team from a few years ago, all on the same NBA team. So you have many guys who have played with each other in college and are friends in the league till today. So it's a good move in terms of cohesion. In that you ain't make moves to new players that they had a gel and blend with each other. Yes, they are at different points in their careers now. The roles that they had on the national team, on the college team, and the roles that they grew into in the league. But I don't think it would be an issue for those guys to either take a step back, take a step up, or just work on some level of compromise to do whatever is best for the team to work, right? Um, Problem though is that I think they are too small, right?
Agreed.
When you talk about Jokic in the West, Embiid is your biggest matchup in the East. And also, what we didn't talk about with Sixers, they got Drummond, who is
Right.
a
Yeah.
rebound, who's a glass cleaner, what we go call in NBA 2K. He's a
Mm-hmm.
I would say a defensive specialist, but he's a big body inside too. You also have, if you go west again too, you have the Twin Towers in Minnesota with Gobert
Right.
and Cat. You have Wemby down in San Antonio, right? So they still have Robinson there, but he has been plagued with injuries these past few seasons, but if he could stay healthy, I think New York needs. Randall is back, but Randall is an undersized big. He can play. He can play bully ball on the offense, but he's not a defensive guy. But I think they still need a little more size. I'm not sure where they'll find it right now because a lot of the free agents are locked up.
Mhm.
So you'll see what moves they make because there would still be some moves that would happen either for the trade deadline or some guys might get waived at some point during the season, so they might be able to get a pickup here and there. But I think they still need some more size. But for what's in the East right now against Boston, they have enough weapons defensively, but they're still missing some pieces. I think, but they're trending in the right direction. I still need to see how it all works with Randall in the situation, because when he was out last season and they made it to the playoff, Brunson was the head of the spear, so to
Mhm.
speak, and he was leading the charge. But to me, I still think Randall is a very important piece for them, especially on the offense, because they are very much undersized, and Randall is their biggest offensive threat on the inside. So I still want to see what the team looks like with everybody healthy and within the fold, and how they are sharing the ball and who the offense really runs through. Um, but I like the moves that they make.
Okay, all right, cool. So I mean, we touched plenty on NBA and NBA news and stuff. So I guess we have about 15 minutes, so we could touch on some football transfers.
Hmm.
So transfers so far, what that you have seen, anything that has impressed you thus far?
Well, yeah, Morata going to Milan. Um,
That's impressive.
huh?
That's not impressive.
I mean, he had a good Euros, so I mean, maybe he could, I mean, he didn't have such a good season with Atletico, so
Actually, no, he had a pretty decent season with Atletico. I mean, you expect Morata to be a bit more
a
than
little bit more
that.
prolific
Yeah,
than
but
just than
he
just an
didn't have a bad
average.
season. He didn't
Yeah,
have a
so
bad season. Yeah.
maybe a change in scenery and going to Italy. I mean, maybe. Um, you have some. I mean, Euro getting. I think that Euro deal was a kind of a Lille wanting to get the most money out of the situation, because when I hear the reports that they threatened to sit him if he decided to
Mhm.
stay to leave for free, that's crazy though. You want to sit
Well,
a player for a year?
that's happening more and more and more as he dig more into certain transfers.
True, but I mean, it is what it is. Was I mean, nothing really jumping out so far. I mean, I think all these big signings happened earlier on. Como under Cesc Fabregas is bringing a lot of the what we would say is older players
Hmm.
to the team. Were they promoted to Serie A, or were they to Serie B?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. More than likely they brought it to Syria. I don't see players like Varane and stuff going to Syria.
Going Serie
Yeah, I
B
don't
as well.
see that. But I had to look to confirm. I can't say for sure.
But it seems to be like a nice project he's building. So I mean, I guess he's building with players who were at one point his peers or his juniors, I guess too. But um, no big signing really jumping out so far. There were rumors of De Bruyne going to Saudi. That was quashed by his agents and city officials as well too. So there's talk of Kante coming back to the EPL. I
That
think
was crushed. That was
that was
crushed.
crushed as well.
Yeah, that's crushed.
That was
Yeah.
crushed as well. I mean, there's more rumors than anything right now. nothing really. Nothing really stand out for me in terms of recent. The only one that has some, I guess, smoke is the Barca going for Nico.
Yeah, that's actually quite interesting. Interested from two points of views for me. In terms of if I was a player on Barca, this is me personally, and I took a pay cut, and then next season you bring in Nico Williams for 60 million plus, I'll be most upset, right? I'll be
After
like,
pulling one set of
so
levers.
yeah, that's not. I mean, like, so you just take my money to go and just buy new players. So far about me and my money, then, right?
I,
I would
I
feel
probably
I
give
would
you less
feel
play
helpless
time.
now. Exactly, right? Because I mean, Nico coming to take somebody's spot, right? So we set if I'm a forward and I know that's less time for me. Yeah, I would be tilted. I would have some problems with that, right? But I think the teams thus far that I've been most impressed with in terms of transfers, I'd give Man U a shout. Manchester United seems to be making the right moves. There were um, news reports saying that Ten Hag and Sancho basically squashed the beef, but now I'm saying he's rumored to be going to be bought
PSG.
out by PSG. So they may have squashed it, but then I was like, I don't need you no more,
We good
right?
enough. We good enough. There's no
Yeah,
beef. We good, but
yeah.
have a good career. So this way.
Exactly, right, right. It's not right, right. The problem is not you. The problem is me. The problem is me, right? That's basically what he's getting there. But outside of that, um, Zirkzee seems to be a decent pickup. Euro is a decent pickup. Well, you lost Varane, or I should say, Varane contract was came to an end, and you pick up a young Euro who was a little salty that he didn't go to Madrid, but on the other hand, I understand Real Madrid not paying that amount of money for an 18-year-old. I mean, not
As
like
you,
we haven't done it before.
as you said that though, right?
Hmm.
Um, I saw something. I can't remember if it was on Twitter or not, but somebody said that you're paying what was 650, 60 million for a player who hasn't played for the national team, who who whose team wasn't who's played in the Farmers League of Ligue 1, and
Hmm.
whose team wasn't really with it. I don't think they were the on tops of the league anyway. Take it. They were probably like what
I don't think the ones on the bottom. Or second thing
was
was
at the
where they
bottom, not
finished.
at the bottom, but
Yeah.
probably like a mid-table to just under the top ranking teams. So you're paying that amount of money, and he's a young player as well too. So it
Hmm.
still could go 50-50 in terms of living up to his potential. So what's your thoughts on a team like Man U doing something like that? I mean, it's not in today's football is not that unquestionable, but still for other teams who are after him as well too, and not just United, not just Real. There were a couple of I think Liverpool was one that wanted him as well too.
Hmm.
They weren't
Yeah.
willing to spend that kind of money on him. What's your thoughts?
I do think, but just to add, right, Lille finished fourth last season, so
Okay,
it's not too bad, right?
yeah, yeah.
But I do think that, yeah, Manu did overpay for him.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, the Premiership is making so much money. I guess they can't afford to do such. It is a risk with young players because you don't know what you're going to get. You're basically paying for a promise of talent for the future. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. So I don't really have a big problem with it. The only problem I had is that he was supposed to come Real and he didn't. But outside of that, I'd have a really big issue with it. If they were willing to pay that, then cool, you could pay it if you could afford it. Um, you just have to hope that it pans out. If it doesn't pan out, well, then it's an issue. But think about it. If he's 18 now and he gives you at least 5 to 6 years of good football, nobody's going to remember that price tag.
True,
So,
true. Because
so I,
prices is
I
going to go up.
yeah, prices is gonna go up, right? And then when the bigger teams, well, I shouldn't say bigger teams because Manu is a big team. They just haven't been on the upper echelons as they were. But when other teams start to come swimming around, that's when they start. I see big money now. Okay, well, we paid 63, 100 million easy, right?
So, I
So
mean, you can basically get like a 40, 50, 60 million in return on that 60 million investment. So,
correct, correct. So to me, people are making it a big deal. I really see it's a big deal. It's only a big deal if he ends up unfortunately getting injured or his talent doesn't pan out. Then it's a big deal. But at this point, you're paying for potential, right? The other purchase or possible purchase, I should say, for Manchester United is Ugarte from PSG or Fofana. I think that's the two that they're bouncing around with in terms
wasn't
of
they
being
also
able
talk
to.
about Xavi Simons as well, too?
Nah, more than likely, Savio Simons might end up in Bayern Munich, but at least that's your rumor
I
that's
know, I know,
happening.
I know. There was talk of United making some
Yeah,
interest
but
in him.
where would he play? I mean, the Ugarte and Fofana, I should say, because they're not going to buy the both of them. Makes more sense because that's a replacement for Casimiro.
Okay.
So that would make more sense than buying Xavi Simmons. If you put him there, that's food. So to me, that Xavi Simmons does make sense there unless you're moving another midfield player to be able to pay that
Get rid of
more
Anthony.
attacking role. Well, Anthony's on the wing, so me, right? Me. I don't have no feelings towards Anthony at this point, right? At this point. So yeah, Manu to me is making some decent moves. Um, I did see rumors in terms of Bayern Munich bought Paulina from Fulham, plays for Portugal to decent central midfielder. Yeah, so he is a decent move. If they get Xavi Simons too, it will kind of refresh that midfield that they have. I
Right.
still don't know what company going to do with that team, but let's see. We have seen where the persons come in and do good
I
jobs.
mean,
So
that was a kind of a shock move though in terms of coaching because he came from, was it Anderlecht?
I think it was Anderlecht. I think it was, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but weren't they relegated or something of the sort? They didn't have a good season.
He didn't. He wasn't doing well where he was. Let's put it
Right,
like.
right, right. And so, I mean, there were so many other top level coaches. I'm not saying company is a bad coach. Maybe it's just a bad situation he was in at Anderlecht. But he's not an experienced coach. There's so many
Hmm.
other more experienced coaches out there, especially for a top club like Bayern. I mean, do you think it's just them giving a new mind, new breed a chance, or what? Or is it connections, or what? Wait, what's your thoughts?
So I have two thoughts. One is it's Burnley. It's Burnley is where he was managing, and they got relegated. So that's in the Premiership. But
Right.
my two thoughts on it is simply that remember Bayern Munich were having that issue in terms of actually getting a manager because they were like, we don't want Tuchel. Then every other manager, Nagelsmann told them no. They had like a whole list of about
Yeah, yeah.
five or
Negotiators
six
were just
managers.
getting cut. Everybody's like,
It was like,
nah.
nah, we don't wanna go there. So I think company was one of the few remaining managers that could possibly do something. They couldn't keep Tuchel and they didn't have any alternative. So I just think that he just happened to be the right man at the right time at that point in time for Bayern Munich. So you see what happens. As a player, he was great. Can
Mm-hmm.
he now translate that into a team that's expected to win? Because Bayern Munich, yeah, he had an off season last season. You're not
Curse
going
of
to have
Harry
a next
Kane.
because of Harry Kane. They're not going to have another opportunity to be bad.
The Harry Kane curse.
Right? Hey, leave Harry Kane alone, man. The man was scoring goals for Bayern Munich. I guess they just
Yeah,
couldn't
but they
defend.
haven't they didn't win a trophy for the first time in how many years?
12 years. That's a lot of years. That's a lot of years. That's a lot of years.
And
But
it
yeah,
just so happened on the year of your transfer, by.
I say give him a chance. Give him a chance. He will get one eventually. He will get a trophy eventually. I can't say when, but he will get a trophy eventually.
For
Eventually.
participation.
No, no, no. They'll win something at some point. I think it's very hard for me to see Bayern Munich going trophyless again for a second season. All right, because Leverkusen is going to lose some players, and to have that same level of season twice
Mm-hmm.
is not an easy feat. So
Agreed. Agreed.
I don't see it being that bad for Bayern Munich the second time around, right?
It might
But
be worse. Next thing food, I better come up and whoop them, put them into the taste, some kind of thing. I mean,
or Stuttgart or something,
or
out to
Stuttgart
the
or
blue.
Schalke or
Yeah.
somebody. I mean,
Out to the blue. There's somebody that's come up and say, well, yeah, we taking it this
sit
season.
down.
Right? But but yeah, it's hard for me to see that happening. I mean, as you say, some of the bigger transfers kind of happened earlier on. I do see some big transfers still going to happen. It will take a little while, but some are still going to happen. There's still the decision on center what's really going on with Davies. Um, there's still a lot of stuff going on wrong in terms of we forget to mention Man City getting Savio. I mean,
Yeah.
I saying getting because that's a whole thing with being in the same group. Yeah, Man City. I think it's Troyes. Troyes is how it's pronounced. It, not sure.
Mm.
And Girona are all part of the same ownership group,
Yeah.
and they like they're trading players in between each other. So yeah. So even though they paid 40 million for
They move money in the
Savio,
books.
yeah, it's basically it went from the left side to the right side. So yeah, there wasn't really any money gained there. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they got relegated to that's the side that Savio came from originally.
Okay.
Not Girona, the same Troy. I think it's Troy is pronounced that, but yeah. So make it worse yet. So it's just like what Red Bull is doing with RB Leipzig and Stolzberg. Yeah. It's that same kind of drama where the kind of everybody just kind of trading players in the same
I mean,
group.
if it works, it works. I mean, other businesses just do it in different industries. So why not in football?
Will always
What's your
be
thoughts
influence.
on him joining City though?
I think it makes City more dangerous. To be quite honest, one it gets rid of Jack Grealish playing too much games. You know
Get rid
my
of who?
feeling on Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish playing too much games.
Your boy?
You know my feeling on no,
Your
not at
dog?
all. Not at all. Nope,
Your
nope, nope.
homie?
Not at all. Not at all. Right. It gives them a threat on the wing on both the right hand side and the left hand side with Doku more than likely staying on the left. Savio being on your right. I don't know what they'll do with Silva though, because Silva kind of plays on your right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to
Definitely.
see. It'd be interesting to see what they do with him. But one thing that Pep does is that he rotates his side very well. So he would get games. He would get games, but you just see who is in the most form and who's going to get the most games moving forward. So yeah, it's a plenty for Haaland to feed off of coming this season. I'm not seeing anyone in the Premiership being able to beat City. City is going for I think this is number 7. Is it?
In a row?
Yeah, I think it's 7. 7.
You sure? Premier League?
I think it's 7. I
Liverpool then
think it
then
is. They may have broken
Liverpool
they
then
may
break
have
one year?
broken one, but yeah, I think it's 7. Is 7 since Pep has been there.
Okay. It's like 7 and 9 or some kind of thing like that. Or 7 and
Yeah,
8 or
some
something to that
ridiculous.
effect.
Yeah,
It's not in a
some
row, but I think in terms of him being there and years won or years with silverware.
Yeah.
It's
So it's 2018, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. Yeah. Yeah, Pimp slapping, yeah,
kind of
Premiership.
own the Premier League right now.
Yeah, yeah, and he's going to own it again for 2024. I'm not seeing any team being able to beat him. His closest rival, Liverpool, lost club.
And
Players
players
getting older. Yeah, players getting older. Salah getting older. Nunes can't score
fine.
goals on a regular basis. So it'll be a tough year for anyone else. It's a race for second. I will just put it like that for the
I
Premiership.
mean,
It's a race.
maybe with the moves that United make, maybe that catapults them into not just a city rivalry, but a top of the table rivalry with the blue. Maybe
I mean, it's possible, but I think after this season, maybe that's when you'll get the best out of Man. At least let the players gel a little bit, and see how everything is playing from there. I guess from that's when you'll actually get to see the best of United. And then there's rumors that Pep is actually leaving at the end of his contract, which is supposed to end, if I'm not mistaken,
at the end of
2025.
the season.
Yeah, so I mean that'll be for all the other managers to rejoice. So we will see we will see how it goes with the Premiership. To be
As,
quite
as
honest.
you brought up that, right, and we kind of end off on this note, right? There's two things.
Mhm.
With Pep rumored to be leaving, um, who do you think should be candidate or candidates for that position if he
Hmm.
leaves, if or when he leaves, and also the most recent vacancy of the English national team. Although he's been rumored to be their number one choice, and they're willing to put a placeholder manager in until he leaves at the end of next season. Who do you think should be a candidate or candidates for those two positions, the England national team and also City? Should Pep leave at the end of next season?
That is two hard questions right now. No, sorry. um,
Have you had
me
a,
pers-
bring up some man?
that's two hard questions. Main reason I'm saying it's two hard questions is that I don't think that Pep would be a good international manager. I mean, he could prove me wrong. I'm not saying no, but I think the day-to-day work Pep puts in and his tinkering and thinking up of lineups and such, I think that is Pep's strong point, and you won't have that when you go into international football. You have less time for players
There's
to
more
understand the
research.
strategy. Correct. So I think it might be harder for Pep to be able to adapt to international football, right? But again, he is a great manager. He could prove me wrong. I'm not saying that that's definitely that, but that's my thoughts based on how he has been for a manager for every team that I've seen him manage. So I think that'll be difficult there. In terms of who should be the England coach, I can't think of anyone, to be quite honest, because there are no notable English coaches right now that could actually take it over.
So about like
Right.
a foreign coach. I
So
know
we are
England
more
tends.
than likely.
I know they tend to stick with their homegrown coaches, basically.
Well, I mean, as of recently, yeah, but
Yeah.
I can't think of who's available to take that job right now. It's slim pickings at this point. It definitely won't be Zidane. Not that far back.
I think
It
Zidane's still
won't
waiting
be.
for Deschamps to arise and shine, arise and
Uh,
leave.
Look like Zidane ain't gonna get no job in no time soon because Deschamps is not leaving that job. So I don't know. I don't know who could fit into that mold for England. What I would say is that England needs a more dynamic, attacking minded coach to get the best out of the players, for sure. Um, but as to who that would be, that's real hard. But that is something I'd answer in the next part. I don't think I can answer that
Need some
off the top of my
research.
head. Yeah, I had to do some research on that one, right? As a City, that one is also difficult because whoever is coming after Pep has a very difficult job. Kevin De Bruyne may not be there. More than likely would not be there. Um, and you're following a legacy that Pep has left there with a Champions League, with many leagues, basically being the team to beat for the last 5 to 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever that person is coming in behind Pep is going to have a hard time keeping that squad together. Whoever that be. Again, I'm more than likely I had to look into that and come up with an answer
But
because
it would all depend on who's available at that point as well too, because
correct.
coaches, managers change kind of in a flash. So somebody who has a
Correct.
job now might be out of a job by middle or end of next season. So it was.
Actually, now that you say that, it could be Zabi Alonso. It could be Zabi Alonso. Think about it. Think
Similar,
about it.
similar style
Similar style, right? Similar style. Again, because it may be difficult because Zabi might want to follow that level of success, but
especially
similar
after
style.
flopping with Barca.
I'm not getting into that, right? Not Zabi Alonso,
Alonso.
right?
Oh,
Yeah, no,
taking
yeah, not Zavi,
taking
no, not
Xavier and
Zavi,
but
right?
isn't Alonso wasn't Alonso see he had specific well at least that was at the end of last season
Mm.
saying that is he would go back only to his the clubs that he played for, which would have been Madrid or Liverpool. Those were some rumors that were coming out of Germany towards the end of last season.
It's possible, but it depends, as I say, what jobs are available. Let's say if Carlo is successful again with the Real Madrid, they won't let him go unless he retires, which he said he's not going to do.
But he also said he Madrid will be his last club,
Correct.
and
So
his
he
contract is
basically was on.
until the end of next season. So
No, he got two. He got 2 years.
it's 2 years.
It's 2 years.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't it like a one-on-one, a one with a
Well,
option?
it's coaches, so they can get fired anytime. Like be real, right? They can get fired anytime. But yeah, ideally speaking, I think Xabi Alonso could be a shout, but that's a
Mm-hmm.
outside of the box shout right now. Only because as the only notable coach, I think could succeed a Pep team.
I you don't see Klopp taking the year off and coming back to City.
No, for Liverpool fans to assassinate him. No, we don't do that.
Yeah, Klopp. I think Klopp will move to some other league. Probably go back to Germany or probably try his hand in Spain or some kind of thing.
That's possible. That is possible. But yeah, I see we way over the time talking about all these possibilities. So yeah, I think we could look to end it off here as usual, man. It's great.
Peace.
Peace.